dig, you might get an answer. We'll see how that goes. All right.
All right, cool.
You are now entering preFORM. Prepare to perform. A podcast created to explore the inner workings of high-profile performers. Conversations reveal what separates them from the average human. Buckle up. During a campus visit to Indian River State College, I was fortunate enough to meet head coach Sion Brinn. His resume is unparalleled. Sion is a two-time Olympian, four-time world short course champion, 14-time NJCAA All-American, NJCAA Swimmer of the Year, NJCAA National Record Holder in both the 50 and 100 meter freestyle, and a 2004 NJCAA Swimming and Diving Hall of Fame inductee. As a student athlete at the NCAA Division I level, Sion competed for Louisiana State University and earned All-American honors. He was also named Honorable Mention All-American in the 200 and 400 meter freestyle relays and the 400 melody relay during his career at LSU. Sion is currently the head swimming and diving coach at Indian River State College. The IRSC swimming and diving program has won 43 overall women's titles and 47 consecutive men's titles. The team just swept the 2021 NJCAA Swimming and Diving National Championship. Without further ado, here is my conversation with head coach Sion Brinn.
That's a funny question. I get that all the time. It's no different than how you grew up in America. You live with what you have there and you enjoy it. But there's obviously a big difference. It's an island. I grew up the island style. Don't really know what that means, but I was on the beach all the time and in the mountains and playing on trees and running around playing all sorts of games. And this is back in before technology as well. So you see the things these days when it says like the time is curfew when it gets dark, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I
That's
loved it.
interesting.
I
Yeah,
absolutely loved it, and I wish I could take my kids back there and do it, but we're in a different life now. My life.
sure.
Yeah,
So feeling rooted and exploring, the island itself with the beach and the water and into the mountains and the
yeah,
waterfalls. I mean, that definitely had to set the tone for you moving forward into the sport of swimming. So how did
yeah.
this all come about for you as an athlete?
My dad got us into. We used to live on the north coast in Jamaica, and if you know anything about Jamaica, the north coast is a really touristy area, and the south coast is in Kingston is business. So right around that time, I was probably 7 or 8. We moved to Kingston, but prior to that, having grown up on the beach, we were in the water all the time, pools in the water, snorkeling, swimming, surfing, whatever it was. And then when we moved to Kingston, uh, it's a city, it's a big city, and my dad was working, so just really, uh, just trying to like find something where after school stuff. I'd already pretty good at swimming, so we found a swim team, started that, and that's kind of where it took off. But in the years previous to that as well, you grew up playing football, soccer, or cricket, different
Hmm.
things like that. You're exposed to a lot of different sports all the time because that's a social event amongst the adults, and then the kids play and try to mimic the parents. So you're exposed to pretty early. No
Hmm.
different to anywhere else in the world, but the swimming really took off because of the accessibility, the need to learn to swim early, having grown up on the beaches and everything, and then dad saying, "Hey, you got to pick a sport. Swimming seems to be a decent one for you," and it kind of saves me an extra or him an extra 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon still for somebody else to take care of me.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, at what point did you start to notice that you were different than your peers in the pool, meaning faster, stronger, smarter? When did that come on for you?
It, I kind of went in a couple of phases to tell the truth. When I first started, I was pretty decent, pretty good. I'm talking like 8, 9 years old. I was pretty good, and then you get into it a little bit more, you turn 11 and you age up to the next age group, and then all of a sudden there's more competition, and maybe you're not the star swimmer anymore for that age. And so I was actually kind of struggling with that in the times of, like, 11, 12 wasn't so bad, but 13, 14 age group, it was getting tough on me. I was getting to be a little bit more rebellious, not really wanting to swim as much or really dedicate the time. But then water polo scene in Jamaica was at the time pretty decent, but it was played by a lot of the older guys. And when I say older, I mean, I'm talking guys up into their 40s and 50s. But then there was a lot of the younger kids that were kind of tagging along and playing. And, it's a big joke. Even to this day, in communication with friends, we always reminiscent back to the days when we spent basically all day playing water polo on Saturday at the stadium pool. It was just the way, that was what you did. Maybe you want to do something else, but that was fun for us. That was 10 o'clock in the morning till 2, 3 in the afternoon playing around. And it actually really helped my swimming. And I think at that point was when I realized that, swimming is probably the way forward for me. And I'm talking, we were doing this for, a couple of years. And by the time I got to about 17 years old, I had gotten actually a lot better in swimming through water polo. I was still swimming a little bit at the time. Well, I was swimming a lot, but I was really focusing and having fun on water polo. And that really actually made my swimming take off. And I think it was at that point, it was like a decision. Okay, you got to decide, because you're getting ready to graduate from school now. What are you going to do in college? And my sister actually paved the way forward when she came to America first on swimming scholarship.
Oh, and wow.
I kind of was still in that sort of rebellious stage, but kind of got into the swimming a little bit. I had a lot of my friends, and when I say my friends, I'm talking all these guys that were a lot older. They were kind of like big brothers and even like guardian parents to me at the time. They kept me in line quite a bit, and my dad bought a one-way ticket to America and said, pretty much, don't screw up. and I ended up here at Indian River following my sister, and that's really, I think, the pivotal point in my swimming career, because as soon as I got here, where it's like a make or break situation, I'm talking like, I'm serious when I say a one-way ticket. It's like, you don't make this work, you're back in Jamaica not doing anything. And I was in a structured program where you had to follow all the rules, and I was training two times a day. I'd never even done that in my life before, and that was really the point. Freshman year,
Wow.
I want to say it was like October, my first meet after swimming and training for like 2 months straight with some dedication. I think I went lifetime best, and the coaches were like, "Whoa, what you got here?" So that was the point. I think freshman year, fall 1991. There you go.
Did you feel like that structure at first, though, was a little bit, different for you from the rebellious side that you've been exploring from like a freedom standpoint, and you come into this structured program, they're having you lay out your workout schedule and your training schedule and your eating schedule? At first, was it a little bit like, I don't know if I'm into this? And then at what point did that switch over?
It wasn't really, I may sound like I was a rebellious kid, and certainly I got up to mischief from time to time, but I'm a rule follower, and I had a lot of respect for people in authority. And so when it was sort of told to you, this is the way it is, it wasn't an issue,
Right.
It was, and then you have all the other guys around you doing the same thing, the teammates and stuff. And so you have an understanding of what's going on. Of course, I had my big sister on the team as well, so she kept me in line a little bit. And I think the other part to that was the excitement of actually seeing that, hey, this is actually a good thing for me, and I'm doing very well, and it's gonna work. So it was like I said, it was the point where all my talents, and not to kind of brag myself, but all my talents were kind of recognized by myself finally. There you go.
Absolutely. So you're at IRSC, Indian River State College, as a student athlete, and then you're getting better and better, and somehow a transition occurs to where Olympics start to become a more serious opportunity for you. Can you share with my listeners and the audience how that came about?
Well, I tell you, when I started getting good, I started getting better fast. I don't mean like my actual speed, but like I was improving very quickly. And so 1992 was actually the Olympic year as well. and I was only 19 years old at the time, and I would never have thought that was a possibility. But I found myself after doing a very good freshman year, constantly trying to make this qualifying time. I really don't know if there was a qualifying time, but there was a standard that had been set for me to have to achieve to be able to go. And I tried for the obviously 92. I didn't make it, no problem. It was, I'd say I was a little disheartened, but I think it was because the realization that the possibility was there, and I didn't achieve it. But I improved pretty good during that summer as well. And so from there, it was kind of like, well, all right, we'll try it again next time. And you're representing Jamaica still, so all these other competitions are still available to you. Caribbean Championships. You talk on a smaller scale from the Olympics, talking like Pan Am's and trying to think of the Commonwealth Games, things like that. But you got to wait for those to come around as well. They're not just there; it's yearly, so you have to figure out which ones to go to. So after freshman year, sophomore year, I did well, and there's nothing big going on, and then the transition to a 4-year program, going to LSU. All the recruiting that happens with that, and excitement of, hey, this is going to continue. And then it just kind of keeps going from there, and then eventually you're swimming at in the Division 1 level against pretty fast swimming. You're actually competing against guys that, if you go to Olympics, you're going to see guys you competed against college with in the lanes beside you, and that certainly was the case as well.
Wow.
By the time I got to 96.
So 96, you're there as the lone swimmer representing Team Jamaica. What was that experience like for you at such an early age?
That was, when you say early age, and I won't correct you on that, but I can tell you those times, early 20s was like, I would want to say it's almost like the peak of the training if you're swimming. So I actually thought that that was it. 96 was going to be it. I'll be too old to compete from there. Obviously I was very wrong at the time. And if you look at today's athletes, especially swimmers, they're getting older and older. But being the lone swimmer on the team there, I'd spent years before that traveling by myself anyway, so that was no different. What was kind of intriguing though was showing up to the delegation, the Jamaica delegation. And I'd known a couple of these other athletes in the track or the boxing, sailing, all those things, and I'd met them previously in different fields while in Jamaica. But being there as a lone swimmer and kind of having to take a different route or a different schedule to all these other, especially the track team, because there was, let's say there was 100 athletes at the Olympics for Jamaica. I was the one swimmer, and I had a completely different schedule to everybody.
Right.
And what I did do was because I wasn't able to hang out with those guys as much, you're talking the entire swimming, from all the other countries, and everybody just kind of hangs out because swimming ends in the first week at the Olympics, and then it turns into have a good time. So with Jamaica, you don't get to represent that, because as soon as you're done, you're getting flown off. It costs too much to keep you in place. So I flew out the very next day, so I didn't really get a chance to completely experience the fun outside of the competition arena in Jamaica. I mean, I probably flew in about 2 days before the opening ceremony, and I flew out the day after I competed in my last event. So I was only in the village for, I don't know, what's that, 5-6 days maybe?
Right, yeah. Well, it obviously had enough of an impact on you and the experience as a whole to drive you to continue into 2000. So let's transition a little bit into that next quad. How was that for you?
That got interesting. I graduated from college, and it was like, what do I do now? Do I join the working world? Who's funding this? This is now a full-time job, right? I'd actually delayed my college graduation by a semester. I should back up on that. So I'd taken the spring off to completely focus on the swimming, and I was lucky enough to stay at LSU and train during that time while traveling back and forth to different competitions. But I had to go back to school after the Olympics, finish off my degree. And then after that, that was the sort of, what do I do now? And finances were starting to get tough. You're an international athlete in a sense. You gotta if you wanna compete, you gotta travel.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I could have stayed locally within the U.S., but there's also I'm a foreigner. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I can't just stay and train the whole time. So I gotta base myself somewhere. So while LSU was kind of a base place to train at, I was competing around the world. And the thought in my head at that point was, am I going to be able to sustain this financially till 2000? And my dad obviously had supported my endeavors, I guess, through the whole thing. But he started having that conversation as well. So right around the end of 1990, the summer of '97, we made the decision that I was going to go represent Great Britain because I'm a British citizen.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so I not Jamaican and British, being dual. So I made that transition, and I remember the very last practice I had swimming in the pool at LSU, and the head coach at the time, Rick Meadow, he kind of made an announcement to the team because these are guys I was training with a little bit. Made an announcement to the team that I was out, and next thing you know, I'm on a flight to England, and I based myself there. I was there for all those years before I started getting funded by the British government through their system and doing a lot of the travel there and sort of I'm in a different country. I'm in a foreign country to what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a transition. It was fun. Gosh, was it fun? But it was different. It was different for me. And it was a good thing. But at the same time, people always ask me, do you have any regrets? Absolutely not. I made the decision to do it, and it definitely benefited me and got me all the way to 2000. And then it was fairly successful. I didn't get to compete individually, but we were on relays, and the 2000 Olympic experience was a hell of a lot different to the 1996 experience. So that's a whole story I can get into if you ask the question, right?
Oh, I'm going to. I'm definitely going to, Sean. Let's unpack that a little bit because here you
Yeah,
are in '96 in Atlanta.
yeah.
You're young. It's your first time there, especially after a qualifier in '92, and then you get to
Mhm.
2000, and this is arguably the last chance that you have.
Yeah.
You're not an individual swimmer. You're with a team. You're on a relay. What were the differences of that Olympic Games for you?
The difference was the support. It was a lot of support. Good stuff. And when you're with Jamaica, it's I'm writing down where the competitions are. I'm trying to do my travel schedule. I'm trying to figure out financially how can I afford to do this, where I'm staying, all that stuff. When I was with England, it was basically hey, we're going to Italy or Australia, wherever it was for a competition or a training camp. We're leaving on these dates. We're coming back on these dates. Fantastic. I look forward I look forward to it. So let's go. When you got to for the Olympics there, those bigger countries, the US, all the big countries, they are very prepared for the Olympics.
Mm.
And we actually had gone on a couple of training trips every year, actually. So like the January, February of 98, 99, even 2000, we went to the Gold Coast of Australia because that was where the British were planning on having their base camp prior to flying down for the Olympic Games. And I'm talking, I think all sports were pretty much in there. So we had gone out to Australia for, I think at one point it was a 3-week trip. The following year, I think I was there for probably 8 to 10 weeks. I'm not even sure. I can't remember. It was a long time. And then the following year, a similar situation. So when we went out to our base camp prior to the Olympics, and I gotta remember, I think Olympics were like in mid-September of 2000. We had actually flown out to the Gold Coast, and the British delegation had actually rented out an entire sort of country club facility for the entire thing. I'm talking villas and hotels and everything. And the entire delegation was there. So it was kind of like, this is luxury. Showing up, you get all this stuff, you know what to eat, you got your own room, not your own, you share a room with somebody, but it's like, it's awesome. And you're there for 2 weeks. And then it's like, okay, guys, we got to head down to the Olympic Village. And you go down there, and I think we got down to the Olympic Village 3 or 4 days before because we're on the same time zone. It's no problem. It's just a 2-hour flight, and there we are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get down there, and you're given your your stuff that you need. You give them a little extra cash for, do as you please. Competition comes along, you compete. Now I competed on the first day and the last day.
Mm.
And I think that's when they just started the whole semi-final deal. So that's an 8-day competition.
Mm-hmm.
And so the in-between part, you have to stay focused, but you got half your team and half the Olympic Village is either started competing or not competing at all. So kind of, in a city of athletes,
Right. Yeah.
have dedicated their life for a while to being the best they can. So when they're done, they're letting loose,
For sure.
So you have to kind of mix around, work around staying focused on your last day of competition. And then as opposed to Jamaica in 96, I competed on the last day. Then I had a week to stick around and do whatever I wanted because you don't leave till after the Olympics and the closing ceremony are done. So luckily I had my mom actually live. She only lived 30 minutes away. So, after 2 or 3 days of just constantly, either watching other sporting events, having a good time or whatever, I was like, Mom, I'm coming to visit. So drive on up to northern beaches of Sydney and stay there for a night and kind of chill out and have a good time with your family.
Yeah.
And head back. So the experience, if you ask me, what's the difference? Just a lot more fun and being able to take in the Olympic experience in 2000 with the British.
Mm-hmm.
When I was with Jamaica in 96, I think I was young, I was new to the sport, I was not any more dedicated or any more focused on the whole thing, but I think the nerves of 96 kind of helped, and then the excitement of 2000 helped in that sense. So it was a different field. I wouldn't say one was better than the other, but I'm glad I experienced both sides of it, and I'd do it all over again if I could.
Yeah, without a doubt. I appreciate you
Oh, yeah.
explaining those differences.
Yeah.
It seems amazing.
Yeah, it was a good time. Good time.
So what's the transition from an athlete into coaching? How did that occur for you? Before we get into what you've done at Indian River State
Yeah.
College, how did that shift? At what point did you say, okay, I'm ready to retire as an athlete and maybe I can give back to the sport?
Well, interesting enough, I have never officially retired. Yeah, I actually have not done that, and I think on principle, just because of the situation, I never will officially retire.
There
But
you go. There you go.
obviously I am. So that was a little bit of an emotional one. My dad passed away in the summer of 2000. It's actually coming on to almost 21 years now. So it was around the end of June
Wow.
that he passed away, and I was struggling with the motivation to continue swimming a little bit, and I was actually back at LSU. There's another side story to that, but I was back at LSU training for the British Olympic trials, and then he passed away during that time, and there was that sort of like window of a week where it's like, what the hell am I going to do? Because the support base, the financial base, the life after swimming had just gone away, and I'd always thought about wanting to get into coaching, and I say that because I just wasn't sure if I was able to do anything else. I had interest in doing all sorts of different things, but my unfortunate complete focus on wanting to be athletics only took away the fact that I really need to focus on other academic endeavors. So coaching was where I was going to go. I'm actually learning to do it while training. I'm older. I have a little bit of experience. I can help out teammates, so I'm getting that experience while doing the thing I love to do. So when my dad passed away, it was actually a couple of weeks before the British Olympic trials. I just happened to fly back to America to see my coach at the time, who had by this time become a little bit of a guardian to me. And he tells me flat out that the school that he used to work at was looking for an assistant position. Terrible situation, but the right timing. So I was like, I'll take an interview if they want me. And so he organized it with his friend who was the head coach where I was at, or I was looking at. And I was on a plane, went up there. Again, this is all happening, 3 or 4 weeks before British Olympic trials. So I went up there, had a look, and I said, "Listen, man, I don't know if I can give you an answer or a decision on if if I'll take a job if you offer it to me, simply because I didn't know if my swimming career was going to end or not."
Right.
I still had to go to trials. I still had to go to the Olympics, all these different things if I made it. And anyway, so I went off the British trials, and again, kind of sidetracked back a little bit. I was struggling with the motivation to train and swim even prior to my father's death. I was getting older, getting a little burnt out, but I really wanted to do it, but it just wasn't really, that fire wasn't there all the time. So when I went to the British trials, I want to say I kind of barely qualified. It
Wow.
did not go super great. It went pretty good, but you know, I was hoping for a little bit more. And after those trials, I made the team. I just kind of said, you know what, maybe this is it. I can't lose out. What am I going to do after the Olympics? I got nothing going on other than hoping they'll keep me on the team. They'll keep funding me as an athlete for Great Britain. I don't know if I can take the risk. So I ended up accepting the job that was offered to me, with obviously the caveat that I would not be joining them till after the Olympics. So that happened. Went to the Olympics in October, I want to say. I have it written down, but I have an exact date. I landed in America, October 5th or 6th or something,
Wow.
year 2000. And it was interesting because the head coach by this time and had enough communication. He was obviously a very close friend with the coach that had me at the time. And so I guess I kind of had the same kind of characteristic in a sense, or at least learned to develop into it. Man, he picked me up at the airport, and we went to his house for like lunch or dinner or something, and we had a meeting, and he basically just told me, this is the schedule, this is what you got going on. And yeah, I had practice the next morning at 6 a.m. and it was all me. It was interesting, you know, just being thrown to the wolves right away. Here I am, a 27-year-old guy, showing up to practice, and you got all these, you know, 18 to 22-year-olds, and I'm supposed to be coaching them. I wasn't nervous, but it was kind of like, well, I guess you're gonna learn now or never. So that's what it was like, man. It was interesting, and
It
it
really,
went off fine. Yeah.
it's the meaning of you either sink or swim, right? I mean, here you are in the deep
Exactly
end.
right. Yeah, exactly
Wow.
right. So
Wow.
I mean, I remember the first practice. I remember the second practice. I think by the third one, I actually ended up having like a group meeting, because I'd already been placed into, you're in charge of this group, and the head coach, he had the other group, and so I had that group meeting, and I was like, listen, I'm kind of the new guy coming in, but we got some standards we're going to work on right away, the expectations. And I told them a little bit about my background and why I'm doing this, and I said, hey, you're just basically going to be doing pretty much the same stuff I did, or I'm used to, or the way I was coached. And that would be the easier transition for both of us. And he said, it might be a little bit harsh on you guys. It might be easy, you know, whatever it is, it's just going to be easier for me to let it flow. And it worked out pretty good. And I had interestingly, actually, there was a guy on the team who I competed against, 2 months earlier at the British trials. He was a British swimmer. So it was interesting. He's one of the older ones, but you know, he's only 5 years younger than me. But I met him at the British trials, and he knew that I was going to be a coach. But yet it was like, all right, hey, good luck in this race. And he's in the lane, a couple lanes down, racing me. You know, so
That's wild.
yeah, it's just interesting little quirks that happen all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel like as you started to become, more invested as a coach and you started to move to other institutions, did you feel like you needed to teach yourself other skill sets and adopt other ways of coaching? Or did you always stick with, hey, this is what I did, this is what worked for me, let me just adapt it and let it flow from there?
Oh, you know, I've kind of held on as long as I can to what I was taught as a sumo and what I did as a sumo. And certainly in my first couple of years at Indian River, at where I was before at Wright State, I pretty much almost mimicked what I had done as a sumo. I thought it was the best way. I certainly believed it was the best way. As you get a little bit further into life, 4, 5, 6, 10 years of coaching, the coaching styles, methods, the philosophy on things, they're evolving and changing all the time. You got coaches all over the world that are still stuck on how it was done in 1970s, 80s, whenever it was, and they're holding on to that. And it works for them if their swimmers and athletes buy into it. I certainly had that ability to do that through the years. but it got harder and harder. I mean, you're talking a complete transition of the way life is. You know, the kids that I'm coaching today have never known a world without social media,
Right.
computers, and all that. So life is definitely different, and I've had to adapt a little bit to those different things. And I don't really know or how to explain exactly how that transitions into actually athletics, but when the concepts of one idea from a friend who happens to be across the country, the coach is telling them to do this, you know, within seconds, you know, their friends hear about it, and then they're coming to you saying the same thing. Hey, my friend over here did this, and you should try it. And I've heard somebody else did it over there. I was like, yeah, okay, we'll try it. So I've almost been forced into having to transition to different ideas, but I've pretty much held similar training methods. I mean, I got a stack of like 20, maybe even 21 binders right here that have the log trainings of what I've done in the last 21 years. Now,
Wow.
over time, you know, you miss a day, miss a week, you know, it's a lot of, it's ingrained in your brain, you know, what you got going on this week. But it's interesting because every once in a while I'll refer back to 2004 and I'll grab 2004s and I'll flip through it. It's like, damn, what do you know? I was about to do that in practice today anyway. You know, it's almost there. But you modify with the talent you have. You modify
Right.
with the weather. I mean, you have to change things all the time in
Mm-hmm.
training these days.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's interesting way. But I always tell people that I write workouts in a pencil,
Mm.
simply for the fact that sometimes you need to erase or change things as you go.
Mm.
That's not a good or bad habit, but it's just a sort of a classic way of me telling you, you know, I got a plan, but we can change if
Yep.
needed.
Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, clearly, Sean, something's working, right? I mean, the
Oh
records you
yeah.
guys have at Indian River State College are more than impressive. Can you share a little bit about that journey through success at IRSC?
Don't know how to answer that really, but you know, the tradition has been set, and so that expectation is there. And certainly you don't ever want to be the guy that kind of messes it up. And it's not a difficult thing to do. You keep your athletes in check. You keep them motivated. You recruit good athletes. You keep them disciplined. You keep them doing this stuff, and you continue to get the support from your administration. You know, you put all those things together, that it kind of equals success. Uh, you know, certainly there is some good competition that comes firing at you from different directions sometimes, and you have to prepare for those things and not lose track of the fact that everybody wants this record. Everybody wants to beat Indian River, and that's a big
Mm-hmm.
motivation. You know, I want to keep the tradition going because I'm part of it.
Right.
Not just as a coach, but also as an athlete. I was here when they won their 18th and their 19th, and now I'm coaching for their. I just finished coaching their 47th. So it's an internal pressure. You know, maybe it's a little external as well, but you know, there's a drive to keep them going, and the athletes themselves want to be part of that history as well.
Oh, it's incredible, man. I
Yeah,
mean, just seeing those numbers at the complex was
yeah,
something that I'll never forget. I
oh yeah,
really tip my hat to the program and you
uh-huh,
as a head coach. It's pretty
yeah,
incredible stuff.
yeah. No, it was it's a good situation to be in, and when you get the support that you get and the facilities that you have, and you know that drive, it's, you know, hopefully this will go on for 100 years. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't plan to be here for 100, but you know, oh, yeah, hopefully it will go on forever. Yeah,
All right, so let's finish off by wrapping it together. What
yeah,
is your vision in regards to being an athlete, growing up in Jamaica? You almost fell into swimming. You
yeah.
traveled the world, two-time Olympian, became a coach because it's something that you were intrigued with, have become a successful coach at IRSC. What's your vision moving forward? What does it look like for you for the next 10 years or so?
You're talking me personally. I want to be happy. I
Mm,
want to continue. I want to be happy doing what I'm doing. Listen, life is hard, and sometimes you hate things, and sometimes you love it, and sometimes you just go with the flow and everything's fine. You know, you'll wake up on a Monday morning, gosh, it's Monday, and next thing you know, it's Friday night or Saturday morning, and the week is done. It's like, oh, that was a good week.
Yeah.
I want to have more weeks like that where, they just flow so fluently through time. And I just want to be happy doing the things that I'm doing. I have no intentions on hunting for, you see coaches that hunt for jobs all the time. I'm staying put here. I got 3 kids that love what they're doing. I got a wife who's a big support system of our family. I got my house and dogs, and I like to go fishing. So everything I want's like right here. And so the vision of a year from now, 10 years from now, honestly, I'm not even looking down the road. It's just I'm just trying to enjoy the summer right now.
Staying in the moment.
Yeah, I am, and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm ready for next year, if you will. So making sure the team's all set, make sure I got the guys and girls in, getting my stuff organized and planned and ordered and all these different things. But when you talk about what's the vision 10 years from now, well, hopefully it was the same as last year, or the year before, or the year coming up. I mean, that's the hope. I really haven't looked beyond tomorrow.
It'll say 57 as opposed to 47.
Good answer. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Yeah, that there you go. That's my vision.
Awesome. Well, Sean, listen, I know you're a busy man. I know you got a lot ahead of you. Man. I really appreciate you taking the time to join preFORM, to share your story, and to unpack what it means to be a human at such a high level. So thanks again for joining.
I appreciate it, man. It was interesting telling my story.
Are you ready to optimize? preFORM Humans is the evidence-based approach to optimal performance, health, and well-being. The platform collaborates globally with a variety of high-profile performers, corporate executives, elite athletes, first responders, and military personnel. preFORM Humans offers private consultation and live webinars designed for individuals, small groups, and large audiences. Visit preFORMhumans.com for more information.